Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men have asked me for the right words to say to be more attractive, desirable, and more of a leader. And I've found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines. Because at the root of a connected and affectionate relationship and being more effective and inspiring at work is your ability to influence others. But most often, influence is not gained or lost with words. It's from what I call the invisible factors. So I created a quick guide for you called 3 Ways Men Lose Influence at Work and with Women, so you can understand how these invisible factors work and what has women and colleagues both more inspired to say yes. I think you're also going to be surprised to find out the moment when your influence actually begins. So grab the guide for free at shanajamescoaching.com/3ways. That's shanajamescoaching.com/3 and the word ways, WAYS. Or you can text ALIVE to 44144. That's the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144. I hope you enjoy the guide and this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm excited to be here today with Ray Arata. Ray, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about the path through fear, because fear is often one of the things that holds men back, holds humans back from having the love, the success, the health, the wealth, all of that they want. So Ray's been working with thousands of men, would you say? You have over 10,000 hours of personal leadership work with men under your belt. You've been leading transformational workshops and groups and coaching men and consulting with corporations and male executives. And you've been an inclusion consultant and cultural facilitator. I really respect the work you do and the range of it, from the Mankind Project to Gender Leadership Group. And ultimately, you are committed to the transformation of gender and helping men wake up and, be powerful in their own right. So thank you for doing all of this work.
Thank you. All of that is what had me write my book called Wake Up, Man Up, Step Up, because that's what I'm really trying to do here, to support men in waking up to be the best men they're capable of being.
Yes.
Man up redefined, meaning to have a relationship with their emotions, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then to carry that momentum forward and step up and be allies and leaders and partners and advocates and fathers and sons and friends.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I love starting with the wake up, man up, step up, and like you said, redefining man up, right? Because it's pretty brutal, the older definition, or how we take man up.
That's absolutely correct. And there's my friend Jimmy Briggs on the East Coast founded the Man Up campaign. So I'm not the only one seeking to redefine that, because it's handy if we're conscious about it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, if we're getting into fear and waking up, and, I would imagine actually a lot of the problems I see in the clients I work with come with them starting from a young age and hearing, whether it's on the football field or their fathers or even their mothers or sisters or whatever, like, man up, don't cry, don't be weak. Showing your emotions is, unacceptable. Do you see a lot of that in the workshops you lead? Do men come to you with that history?
Most, if not all, men. And when they come to me or they come to the workshops that I do, it's often because they're looking for something that's missing. And unfortunately, it often takes some pain for men to recognize that the old bag of tricks, the old outdated model of masculinity that we were shown, that society and media perpetuated, doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And so when they reach that pain point where I want to do something different, They may buy my book. They may come to a Mankind Project weekend. They may come to my Better Man conference, all in the spirit of becoming a better man. And in that context, one of the first things we have to do is give them a vocabulary.
Ooh, yeah.
And one of the vocabularies we give them are the 5 basic feelings: mad, sad, glad, fear, and shame. And we give them this vocabulary so they can start a conscious relationship with their emotions.
Yeah. So that's one of the first things you do, is actually really educate them. It sounds like, because there's a lot of don't cry, no tears, whatever. And a lot of, the men I work with, I talk about head, heart, and body, or sometimes, head, heart, and balls, where it's like that balance between all 3 is really what has a man feel powerful and access that self-worth, and then also, be powerful in the world and what he creates. And so it sounds like you're giving men the step to come from, okay, only being more intellectual and focused in their mind, and actually coming into their emotions and their heart.
That's correct. I jokingly say there's this horizon of real estate called your body, which, by the way, exists below your chin, which is where all your emotions reside.
Yeah.
And you could go through life unconscious to the fact that your emotions reside in your body.
Yeah.
Unconscious to the reality that you probably weren't shown how to feel and experience your emotions, which means you've been stuffing them for 20, 30, 40, or 50 years. And worse yet, because you may have felt pain when you were little from your family of origin, from your mother or father or both, or incidents, that your brain makes up a belief about yourself, and you create defensive strategies like to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Fast forward, you're an adult, and there's often a little boy driving an adult man's body.
Yeah.
And when men are ready to confront, acknowledge, and grow themselves up internally, that's when they come to a weekend or get the book, or they go to the Better Man conference, because they recognize they want different results.
Yes. Okay, great. So how do you see fear playing a role? I mean, it seems to me like it's one of the biggest things that stops most of us, right? Some people talk about it, it's either fear or love, and we can just break everything down into those two categories. But how do you start to, how do you work with fear, and how do you see it come into play in these workshops and coaching situations?
So the way I work with fear is to first understand its origin, and how way back when we were cavemen, saber-toothed tigers were real. And so feeling fear, we better run.
Right.
Or we would fight if we needed to. So fight or flight. And so fast forward into the present day, and to make this relevant, fear as one of the 5 core emotions that I mentioned earlier, fear is outrageously pervasive right now, in large part due to the Me Too and Time's Up movement, such that men are afraid to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So what do men do in those instances? They back off. They go off to the sidelines. They stay silent. And so my invitation, the way I work with men and women with fear, but for our purposes today, is to recognize that fear is an emotion that sits in your body, and that it's a messenger, and that you can consciously choose to have a relationship with it.
So you can actually get the message, instead of it's like banging on your door, trying to get to you, trying to have you pay attention, and the conditioning is to just ignore it, right, and keep moving.
Exactly. So I feel fear in my stomach, or in my hands. What I also know about myself is, if I don't, recognize the fear in a split second, I show fear initially through anger. Many men, we get labeled, and for good reason, as one-trick ponies, that the only emotion that we can show is anger, And
Wow.
unfortunately,
Right.
that makes women feel unsafe.
Right. And it's the only emotion that, usually from a young age is actually, especially in man culture, or is respected or seen as,
Or
here, this
modeled.
is available or modeled. Right.
Or modeled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when I work with men, my invitation to them is to get interested in your feelings. And when fear comes up, oftentimes I'll ask them, a man, to close his eyes and think of a time when he was the last afraid. And when you have that memory, to ask yourself, where in my body
Mm-hmm.
do I
And you
feel that
listening can do
fear?
this right
Yeah,
now.
they
Yeah.
can do that right now.
So checking in
So
to see where in your body you
where
actually
in your
feel that.
body do you feel the fear? Is there a temperature? Is there a texture?
It's 68 degrees right now.
Ah! Okay, that was amazing, because normally we'd cut that out, but you said, is there a temperature? And whatever that was just said it's 68 degrees right now.
Yeah, that was my phone. I'm sorry about that. Oh, well, a human moment. So, and the reason for the checking into that fear is now you are in relationship with your fear.
Yeah.
And I offer to all men that fear is a messenger, and we could actually use that fear as fuel.
Yeah.
And to give a larger context, I ask men, what kind of man do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of man that refrains, recoils, or reacts from fear?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to be the man in a story I tell where the adventurer leaves the village, and as he's walking through the forest and it's getting darker and he's going to go somewhere where no man has ever returned from, he looks back at the village and he says, God, I so want to just go back there because it's safer.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he feels his fear and he says to himself, I must go on. I need to go on. That's the kind of man that I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so this option is available for us as men. And the key thing is that we don't need to do this alone.
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
We don't need to do this alone. And in our current environment, with everything that's going on, it's time for us men to come together, just like those 1,600 men did the other day in the New York Times article saying, we believe you, Dr. Ford.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question that just arose that was surprising, which was, a lot of men I work with lead companies, they, whitewater kayak, right? Like jump out of helicopters or airplanes. And there's a way that fear, there's a motivation through that fear, just like you said, what kind of man do you want to be? But then when I think about where it seems really scary for men is to sit down with another man and have a conversation and say, I'm hurting right now, or I'm struggling with this, or I could really use some help,
Yes. So what you're speaking to is vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, someone sold us guys the message that to be vulnerable, to show you my brokenness, to admit that I don't have all the answers, to ask for help is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And it's been explained to me that great Indian warriors would stand around a circle, around a fire, and they would take their armor off as a sign of courage. Because what could happen is they could be annihilated. Or they could demonstrate their power by removing their armor amongst other men.
Yeah.
That takes courage.
Yeah.
And what most people don't realize, and actually I can ask you, Shanna, if I tell you that I'm feeling afraid, that I'm not feeling very confident right now,
yeah,
that I might have even made a mistake, do you trust me more or do you trust me less when I say that?
I trust you more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the impact, guys, when we choose to be vulnerable. Now, if you're that guy and you are, and I'll be that guy for a second. I know that my own experience of feeling sadness or grief has in front of it as a protector fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been afraid and have been afraid that if I really felt my sadness or my grief, that I'd get swallowed up by it.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, okay, there's my fear. I feel it. And I'm going to step into experience this sadness. And on the other side of a couple of the instances that I'm thinking of, I've ended up kind of laughing because I thought I was going to die and I didn't. Yeah. And then I got this amazing insight. And did I mention a huge relief and release in actually experiencing those emotions?
Right.
So that's part of it.
And the men I see and I walk through this, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die. I think I'm going to be swallowed up by this. I'm never going to come out the other side. They often do end up laughing on the other side and feeling lightness and then feeling so much more empowered, right? So much more capable in a way, like, oh, I can face anything. I can trust myself.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking there is a complication, and I think about this a lot because in my marriage years ago, so I had modeled for me a very angry feminine, and for a long time I didn't even know I got angry. And then I think when I was 27, I had this pivotal moment like, oh my God, I'm actually angry. And then after that, I went through a phase of expressing anger more. And part of what I noticed in that relationship is that, well, there were all different things that happened, but one thing I'm thinking of is that women often don't know how to be with a man's fear or vulnerability. Like often that, and I've experienced this, that can bring up a woman's either her own fear, right? Like, oh my God, he's leaving me in a way, he's abandoning me, he's not going to support me. And then as a woman, it can also, like you're saying with men, it can show up as anger, it can show up as rage, it can show up as disgust. So, one of the things I work with men is to help them find a way to communicate to whoever they're talking to say, this is what I need to experience right now, or to feel grounded and confident in their own goodness, that they can show this vulnerable part without collapsing, right?
Correct.
And I'm curious for you, what you suggest or how you support men, because not everybody has that really positive reaction or I trust you more when you express fear. So what do you help them, or how do you support them with what to do when someone has a negative reaction?
Well, when you say negative reaction,
this is good.
When you say negative reaction to them sharing a truth about themselves?
Well, and negative reaction is an interesting one, right? That we could pick apart, but I would say, yeah, if someone gets angry or disgusted or just dismisses that vulnerability.
So a couple of things, and this may or may not answer your question. One of the things I teach men is that anger is a secondary feeling to underlying feelings of sadness, fear, or grief/loss.
Yeah.
So I invite them, when they feel anger, if they can, and it takes some practice, to ask oneself, what's true about my anger? Am I afraid? Am I sad? Or am I grieving a loss? And the energy immediately can shift. So you've gone from, oh, I'm angry, to what's really true about my anger is I'm sad or I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Then there's one more question. Who or what do I really care about? And that question can move us from reacting to responding. Yeah. So if it's, I care about myself, or I care about my wife or girlfriend or boyfriend, then from that place, that's the truth. So the way I describe it is the fact that you care about someone or yourself, that this, whatever you heard or experienced, scratched that And what you somehow managed to do was slow things down and get interested in what was going on for you.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said care about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because clearly, yes, it's important to care about the others around you. But I think often what I see with men who identify more as nice guys or caretakers is it's not even a concept of like, wait, me? Oh, right. Oh, I need to put my attention back on me too.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is good. When you think about helping men walk through fear, and as I say that, I'm really getting, right, it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to walk through fear and then it's gone forever. It's every time fear arises, right? What else do you teach men, or how else do you support them?
So a couple of things. One of the things I teach men is what we call shadow beliefs and behaviors. Those beliefs about ourselves that we hide, repress, and deny. And most of us walk around the earth not knowing that these beliefs about ourselves are out of our periphery, out of our consciousness, and they're associated with trauma growing up. And the invitation when I work with men is to become familiar with those beliefs about yourself. And the most common ones are, we've heard them: I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm less than. Everyone's got a different flavor, and most of those come from a childhood trauma of some sort.
Yep.
And so when we can identify those beliefs and feel those feelings, we can write a new story, because those beliefs are BS. They're not true.
Yeah.
And so whether it's working with fear, it's to get to know fear with you, and what happens when you are afraid, and what's the story you write about yourself that's holding you back. So what this is it's a commitment to introspection, and or put another way, just to know yourself.
Right. It's really different. I'm thinking, it's so different to acknowledge, okay, I'm afraid, right? Versus I'm afraid, and being afraid is shitty and weak and all these things, right? Like that whole second layer of the judgments about the fear and what it means about me.
I just realized something. I could say I'm afraid and I'm being truthful, or I can be a fraud and say I'm not afraid. Afraid or a fraud.
Afraid or a fraud. Yeah, I like that.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so you were saying that there were a couple things. One of them is these beliefs and old beliefs that come from trauma, and you work with those around fear. Were there other things you wanted to say about that, or the other pieces?
Well, that's just as it pertains to fear. And insofar as fear is concerned, there's only so much I can do as a man in looking at myself, which makes so very important the need to do this with other men.
Yeah.
Small groups whereby you are practicing a muscle. In the Mankind Project, after a man does a men's weekend, we encourage the men to enter into I groups, I standing for integration, as in integrating your new awarenesses of yourself into your everyday life. Just because you did a weekend or read my book doesn't mean you're cured.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with you. And life's going to happen. You're going to get in an argument with your partner. Your father or mother may fall ill. You might lose your job. You might really feel alone.
Yeah.
And you might have said something stupid at work. You might have mansplained or manterrupted or done something where your unconscious bias and your privilege hurt somebody. This stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so when you choose to walk the path of becoming an ally, partner, advocate, the best thing you could do is to get people in your court offering you support, accountability, helping keep you awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another thing that you can do,
is to actually receive that feedback or receive the impact of how you're impacting people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think, right, there's a whole piece that I work with around men, around being able to hear that without taking it personally, and without making it mean it's actually true. And then also being able to stay connected to the person saying it, even though that fear or anger may arise, or the grief, right? All of that, and being able to stay connected in the moment. I mean, that takes some skill.
Yeah, I'm realizing something in the course of our conversation, that we've gone towards the fear, and we're talking a lot about fear. But what we haven't done is answer the deep core question: why would I look at the fear? Why would I go there? Or put it another way is, if I do all this, what do I get?
Right. What's in it for me?
Why is this important?
Yep.
And so I'll answer that if that serves.
Yeah.
And so I want the men to see themselves as a courageous man, as a intimate man. Intimate, or intimacy defined as into me you see. As a powerful man by virtue of being vulnerable. As a truthful and authentic man, being who you are, as opposed to trying to prove or be something or someone that you're not. Why would any one of us want to do that? Well, A, it feels good. B, we can look at ourselves in the mirror and feel good about ourselves. There's more peace and freedom in it. And the women or partners in our life will feel closer. We will be a model for other men.
Yeah.
We will be a safe male for women.
And daughters and
daughters.
Men,
This is all the stuff that and we will be a mission-driven man. This is all, these are all the yummy pieces of why I do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel really grateful.
It took pain to get my attention.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about your own, pain, now that you bring that up, since you've been through it, right? And now you're painting the picture of, okay, what's on the other side? Can you speak for yourself more personally about what you've gained through this?
Yeah. So at 55 years young, I finally feel truly powerful and in flow and humble and gifted to bring my heart forward in serving other people.
Yeah.
And it's so fulfilling, because if you would have asked me or told me that this is what I'd be doing 15 or 20 years ago, I could not have fathomed it.
Really? Because where were you then?
20 years ago, I was a financial advisor, running all around Silicon Valley, married with 3 kids. And next thing I know, the mother of my 3 children doesn't want to be married anymore. And one of my 2 business partners, both who were men, went to a competing firm. So he went from friend to foe in a millisecond. Wow. And so I had a double whammy wake-up call. And that's when I ended up doing my men's weekend and found out that the little boy was driving the bus. And so there's been, other stories around my path as a man, and learning this whole grief thing. A big piece of work that most men don't do or haven't done yet is grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that took me a little while, but once I got there, it changed my life. And insofar as recontextualizing all this to go into the corporate space, I had to once again be humble and remember where men are at, where I was at, where I am at.
Yep.
And from that place, now I can meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And serve them.
Thank you for giving those personal examples. I feel touched. Clearly it's obvious to me that you've been on a journey, but getting to really hear about it, and when your rug was pulled out from under you, and I love that you can be an example for men of, yes, this happened, and now you feel actually truly powerful and actually really connected to yourself and others. And
oh yeah, I'm human like like anybody else. Some other wake up calls coming.
Yeah, right.
And at least I'll have the technology to honor my feelings.
Yeah. I love that you just said that too, that some other wake up calls coming, because when we recognize that we keep getting those wake up calls, it's not a sign then that I did something wrong. Again, that, I'm weak or unlovable or not manly for men, right? It's just like, oh, this is actually part of how life works.
That's exactly right. Another travail, another opportunity to feel and heal.
Thank you. This has been awesome. And, one of the things you do that I've participated in is the Better Man Conference. And I can't participate in your men's weekends, clearly, because I'm not allowed to go. But two things, and you can choose whatever order you want to say them in. One, I'm just wondering, what else you want men to know, or if there's anything else you want to wrap up with. But I'd also love to hear a little bit about the conference, because I went and had a really profound experience of getting to see people who are, as a woman, people who are allies and on my side and wanting to support me, but also from a really clear place of loving men and wanting to support men as well, So, anything you want to say about either of those?
Yeah. So what I would first want to say, guys, is that I truly feel that we are at a very, very, very important moment in time. This is our civil rights movement that most of us were too young to be a part of. And there's a real opportunity to be part of a paradigm shift, to step into a new way of being a man, for it to be cool to be emotionally healthy and to feel our feelings and to be in our truth, to be the models for the men that are coming behind us. So I want to invite all men, regardless of sexual orientation or age, to join me on this, what I'm calling the Better Man movement. And to that end, I'd like to invite you to come to the Better Man Conference, either in New York on November 6th or San Francisco on October 26th, to come into a safe space, to be in the space with other men who are curious and putting themselves on their path of becoming an ally, partner, and advocate in their lives and in their jobs. And if that's too big of a bite for you, to get my book. Start there.
That's a great place to start. Good. Okay. And what else? If you got off this conversation and there was something you didn't say that you would regret saying, right? What else do you want to leave men with that would be most supportive and useful for them?
That I know inside each of you, there is a heart. And inside each of you, there is a deep aspiration and a want and a longing to be the best man you can be and to be connected with other men. After meeting so many men, I found that to be true.
Yeah.
And whether it's the Mankind Project doing one of their weekends, or joining your men's church group, or coming to the Better Man Conference, I want to challenge you to take a step towards recreating that camaraderie and connectedness that we all had when we were little boys.
Yeah. I love that. And it's funny. I mean, of course, not of course. I'm just thinking, okay, the woman in me, the feminine in me just said, like, and go and be held, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be so isolated. You don't have to be unsupported. Go and actually be held and cared for by other men. And it's something a lot of men have never experienced in their lives.
So you're prompting me to share one story.
Okay.
And on the last weekend that I led, there was a man there who, I'm 6'3.5", and he was bigger than me. And I was listening from a distance and observing him doing his work. And it occurred to me that, since I knew that there was a death in the family, that this man needed some support. And I went up to him and looked at him and asked him what he was feeling. And he told me, and he was feeling sadness. And I just asked him if I could touch him on his heart. And I looked at him and he broke down in tears. And I got down on the ground with him and I cradled him for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what he needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his work.
Yeah. Right. Isn't that amazing? Like that's often the work for men. It's not, how can I be bigger, stronger, smarter? Right. How can I actually receive and feel and soften? And amazing how it actually is another facet of strength.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for doing this work in the world. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Shana.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope it gives you a sense of what's possible and how good your life can be. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe to Man Alive and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/manalive to get outtakes, videos, and raw footage I only share there. These are some of the most interesting parts of these expert conversations. You can also grab your copy of The Unknown Power to accelerate your career and solidify your confidence with women, because the two are related, and I know you don't have to settle for one or the other. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.